Hi guys, I'm back with a new video and today I'm going to be talking about our UK wish list for Eurovision. I say our and not mine because I invited you guys to give me your ideas on who you'd like to see represent the UK. So I did get quite a lot of comments actually on YouTube and on Twitter. So thank you for that. And I will go through them. I'll talk about my ideas first, and then I'll go through your comments as well and see if we agree on any of them. I do want to point out before I start that I'm mainly focusing on realistic artists who would represent the UK, who would realistically do it, not people who are too famous or too big, people like Adele, Dua Lipa, people who just wouldn't do it. I'm talking more about, you could call them rising stars or upcoming artists. There was so much speculation about Rin Sawyama last year. It got out of hand, actually, so many rumours, and there wasn't really any evidence to back up the rumours either. It was just so much speculation. Now, I would love Rin Sawyama to represent the UK. That would be amazing, and we could even win with Rina, probably. I listened to some of her songs and I actually imagined them at Eurovision, so she would do brilliantly, but I think it is too good to be true, and as much as we'd love her to do it, I don't know if she would, so I'm not putting her on my list, but she would be amazing. Hello, I just wanted to add something into the video. I just mentioned Rin Sawyama, and it's actually being revealed today, just as I'm about to finalise, edit, upload my video. It's being suddenly revealed that Rin Sawyama was in fact approached to represent the UK in Eurovision last year, so there is some truth to it, but not as much as people thought. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that because it's something that's come to light today. So you may continue. So before I mention any specific people, I want to start off by just saying what type of music or style I'd like the UK to send. And I think I've mentioned this before in other videos. I've been thinking this for about 2 years now, and I'm sure lots of you, if not most people, would agree. I think we, the UK, should send something a bit different and take a bit of a risk, go for a different genre, just something a bit different, a bit more edgy. And a good example of that, or a good way of doing that, is to send a band, I think, like a rock band or an indie band. And I think it'll be good for the UK because the UK is quite well known for that sort of thing in music, and I think the rest of Europe will appreciate it as well. So I think that is what a lot of people are hoping for from the UK. The problem is, I think, is that I worry that the UK team, the people in charge of looking for our act, I worry that they would be too afraid to take the risk and go for something different like that. I just don't really trust them to take the risk. I think they'll be a bit too afraid, which is a shame because it would work out well, I think, if we did do something like that. So I have got some examples of groups I'd like the UK to send, and solo artists as well. And this list that I've got isn't really in a particular order, or it's not meant to be anyway. It's not a long list either. I could have made it longer actually, but I've got all of your comments to go through as well, so it would take a while if I did a huge list. But in terms of bands, I think would be good to send. On the top of my list, even though it's not in a particular order, but the first one I thought of was a group called Churches, but the U in church is a V, so churches with a V. And they're from Scotland. Lots of you, if you're from the UK, you probably do know them. They are quite well known. Not like really famous, but fairly well known. And they're kind of like indie, pop, electronic, alternative. And I just think it would be really good, like a breath of fresh air, if we sent something like that. And actually, I remember on Twitter, the lead singer who, her name is Lauren, I think. I saw her tweeting along at the final. She was watching the final live, and somebody tweeted her saying, "Would you do it?" And she said, well, I don't know if she actually said yes, but she liked the tweet, I think. So I know it doesn't really mean anything, you know, I'm just clutching at straws, but it made me think, if they are interested, I think that would be really good for us to send something like that. Another band that I really like at the moment, and I think would be really cool and definitely different for the UK, is Pale Waves. And they are more of a rock band, kind of like, I'd say, pop rock, indie rock. There's a lot of Avril Lavigne influence, 1975 as well. I think they're quite similar to, again, another female vocalist group. And this would definitely be, I talked earlier about something with an edge, something a bit more different and a bit darker maybe. This would definitely tick the box for that. I think with them, I can't really picture them doing it. I know I said I was trying to keep it realistic, but I think churches are more likely to do it than Pale Waves, I think. But I think it would be really cool for them to do it because, again, it's different. I'm going to mention two other groups quickly. Again, I don't know if they'd actually do it, so I'll just briefly mention them. But one of them is a band called Wolf Alice. Again, another kind of indie rock band, really good band. Again, I'm not sure if they would do it either, but I think that would be so cool for us. They've got a song called Smile. Listen to Smile by Wolf Alice and try and picture that song being performed on the stage. It would be amazing. And another group is London Grammar, and I think they've been mentioned quite a few times by fans, I think, over the past few years. So these are all kind of like alternative groups, and all of these that I've mentioned so far would be really good for us. I think it's what we need, something like this. So let me know, these four bands that I've mentioned so far, do you think any of them are likely to do it? Or if there's any more that you can think of, let me know. So I'm going to move on to a few solo singers now. And one of them I've got in my mind is Holly Humberstone. And she's still fairly new as an artist. She's only been around for about 3 or 4 years, I think. And she did win a Brit Award, I think it was maybe the year before last, for a Rising Star award. And it's always good to keep an eye on these people because a lot of them do get rumoured for Eurovision. So yeah, it has crossed my mind sometimes Holly Humberstone could do it. And that would be great as well, I think. I I think she makes me think of like a British version of Olivia Rodrigo. That's the kind of vibe that I get. And if I had to compare it to somebody from Eurovision, for those who don't know her, I'd say maybe a little bit like Amanda Tenfjord, that kind of vibe. But yeah, she'd be really good, I think. And speaking of new and upcoming artists, I would say as well Dylan. She's very new on the scene. And last year, actually, I was wondering if Dylan would do it. I just had this feeling it was going to be her because I remember hearing her stuff being played on the radio for like the first time. She was like brand new, like last year or the year before. And you think of Sam Ryder, you know, he was just emerging on the scene. And you try and look at these other people who were like that, you know, just emerging. And she was one of them. And that's why I thought, oh, maybe it could be her. But it wasn't last year. Could she do it at some point this year? I wouldn't be surprised. I think it would be the type of person that they would pick, like Mae Muller wasn't that well known either. So yeah, I can see something like that happening. But Dylan would be really good as well, you know, another fresh new artist. So I've got one more on my list to mention. It's not a very long list. I'll probably think of more after this video that I should have mentioned, but I just forgot. But I can always do another one later on, maybe. But for now, my final artist on my list is Doobie. Bit of a strange stage name. I'm not sure what her real name is, actually, but she was born in the Philippines, grew up in London, and yeah, this is a strange one because her style, I'm not sure if it would work for Eurovision, but I do really like her music, and I think it is very alternative and indie. I think indie pop is the way to kind of describe it. Well, actually, her Wikipedia page describes it as bedroom pop. She did have a song that went viral a few years ago. It was called something about coffee, like coffee on your deathbed or something. You probably know it if you hear it. But she's got other songs that I really like as well. And she's another example of a breakthrough artist. So I don't know if she would do it. I'm not sure if her kind of style would work. But it would be really interesting, and it is somebody that came to mind. I think that song I was thinking of is just called Coffee, I think. You'll probably know it if you hear it. But actually, I said that that was my last one. It's actually not. I have got one more, and I wasn't sure whether to include this, but I will. So this is somebody that is not really well known at all, unless you went to see Sam Ryder in London in November last year, which is what I did. And the support act for Sam Ryder was a girl called Ellie Dixon. We have the same surname, but we're not related. Yeah, Ellie Dixon. And she was actually at Glastonbury this year, not on a big stage, but like the introducing stage. So again, she is another emerging artist, and her style is very kind of like ukulele, almost like comedy in a way. You have to listen to it it's hard to describe, but it's got quite a British sound as well. And when I saw her live, and she was really fun live, and I've listened to her stuff after I saw her live, I still am listening. She's got some really good songs, actually. When I saw her live at the Sam Ryder show, I was thinking, are we looking at our next representative for 2023? I just had this feeling, oh, were they sort of hinting that Ellie is going to take over from Sam Ryder? It didn't happen, obviously, but ever since I saw her live, I've kept her on my UK list because it could happen. But again, similar to Doobie, it's her style. It's quite alternative. I don't know if it would work, but she would be a lot of fun, I think. So yeah, it's something to think about. Have a look at Ellie Dixon. She's got a song called Swing and Big Lizard Energy. She's got some other like ukulele type songs as well. very different kind of style. But yeah, something to think about. So I thought I added that to the end of the list. So you may have noticed that all of the people or groups I've just mentioned are all female. And that actually wasn't intentional. I didn't do that on purpose, like only give you female names. It's just the way it is. I mean, it's not like I don't listen to male artists as well. I do. But I do listen to a lot of female music as well. So it just happens that some of my favourites are female, but it wasn't intentional. It is literally just how it worked out. But I'm sure there are a lot of male artists that I'd like to do it as well. I just haven't thought of any for this list just yet, but I will. So those are some of my ideas. Again, I've probably forgotten and missed out something, but it's just a group of ideas. And now I will go through your comments that you left me, starting on YouTube first on my community post. And first one is from Sarah. Hello. You've got a few names here. You've got Keen, Franz Ferdinand, Years and Years, which is interesting because they have been mentioned a lot. Although I think now Years and Years have kind of split up, I think, and Ollie Alexander has gone solo, I think. Or he is basically Years and Years himself, but they're not really a group anymore, I think. I could be wrong. But they and he have been rumoured a lot, and in fact, I'm not sure if this is publicly known. I think it is. I think it was actually revealed officially, confirmed. But in 2022, when it was Sam Ryder, Ollie Alexander from Years and Years was their second option. So he was very, very close to representing the UK. If it wasn't Sam Ryder, he was the other choice. So maybe he'll do it again at some point, either as Ollie Alexander or Years and Years. But we had Sam Ryder, and actually I think Sam Ryder was our best option. And I'm not sure if Years and Years, even though they're very well known, very popular, would have done as well as Sam Ryder, so it worked out well in the end. But yeah, that is a name that gets mentioned a lot. You've mentioned Mabel as well, that would be great. And she has been mentioned. I think now she might be too famous, actually, maybe. Or you could say, is anyone too famous? But she is actually part Swedish. I think her mother is Swedish, so performing Malmö, why not? Talking of rumours, you've mentioned Fleur East. Now, Fleur East is rumoured pretty much every single year for the past, 3 years, and it's never happened. I think she does like Eurovision, though, so you never know. And you've got Paloma Faith as well. I think she might have been mentioned by fans a few times as well. So that's quite a good mix of people that you've got there. Thank you for that. Next up, we've got some ideas from Harry, again from YouTube. First name you've got is Ionica. I'm not sure if that is how you pronounce it. I assume it is. But this is interesting because this name, especially recently, is being mentioned by fans a lot. A lot of people are hoping for them. And I didn't actually know who they were before. I do now, I've heard some of their stuff. And people have said that, people in these comments on Twitter, actually, which we'll get to later, have mentioned that they have said publicly that they're interested and they'd like to do it. So that's good. And we're talking about going for something different. and something a bit more edgy and darker, like I said, well, that is a perfect example of that from what I've heard from Yonica. So that would be really interesting if we sent them. So yeah, that name does pop up a lot. You've mentioned Paloma Faith as well. Self-esteem. Yeah, now that would be interesting. She's got a very sort of alternative style as well. And Cat Burns, yeah, she's very well known at the moment. I'm sure she's won like a Brit Award, Rising Star Award as well. Yeah, she's definitely getting more popular. Tom Grennan. Now, I was very, very close to mentioning him and putting him on my list. But like you've said here, he might be a bit too big now. That's what I was thinking too. I wasn't sure if I can picture him doing it, but his name has definitely crossed my mind a few times, definitely. So that's a good group of suggestions as well. Connor would like Gabrielle Aplin. Now, I'm not going to lie, I've heard of the name. I don't think I've actually heard any of her songs, though. I'm going to have to look into that and do a bit of research and listen to her stuff, because I've heard of her name, but I don't think I've heard any of her stuff, so I will look into that and check it out. So thank you for those comments on YouTube. I'm going to move on now to the replies I got from Twitter. Some of them, there were quite a lot of them, but hopefully I got most of them. So the name of Yonica, the band Yonica, came up twice on the YouTube comments, and now on Twitter, people mention them again. So there's Leon James, who said, somebody tweeted Yonica a couple of months ago and asked if they would be up for doing Eurovision, and they said yes, and they'd be a perfect entry for us. And then Nicole also mentioned Yonica. She thinks we'll landslide win with them, and they said they'd be up for it. So that's 4 people now that have mentioned Yonica, so they are very popular, it seems. Could they do it one day? It looks like if they do, people will be very happy about it. So we've got some mentions of some Welsh artists now, which is really interesting. We've talked before about Welsh representation in Eurovision from the UK. I've said before, you know, I'm from Wales, I'm Welsh, and I always love to not promote, but make the most of what Welsh music we have, because I do think that we need more Welsh music in the mainstream in general. So to have a Welsh singer or band represent us again would be great. And we have actually had quite a lot of, not a lot, but quite a few Welsh representatives for the UK. We had Lucy Jones in 2017, who was actually quite well respected by fans. You know, she did quite well for the UK standard back then. There was Bonnie Tyler as well. I think Jessica from 2002, I think she's Welsh as well. Even Joe and Jake, 2016, they're Welsh as well. So there have been quite a few Welsh singers, contestants in Eurovision, which is great. And having more would be great. But now we've got some mentions of Welsh language singers, which we haven't had in Eurovision before. Will we ever sing something not in English, but in Welsh? We've talked about this before. As much as it would be great, I'm not sure if they would, but it would be very interesting, and I'd be up for that, definitely. So Martin on Twitter has mentioned some Welsh artists. He's mentioned Gwenno. I've heard of Gwenno. Cassie Calang, which is a Welsh folk band. That would be interesting. And No Good Boyo. I haven't heard of No Good Boyo before, but having some Welsh names out there is great. And Rosie as well, my friend Rosie. Again, hoping for something not in English. You've mentioned some Welsh names as well. Gwenno, again, but you think she might be a bit too out there. And you've mentioned Mary Matthias and Rachel Walker. Not sure who Rachel Walker is. I need to look up some of these names. But thank you for those Welsh suggestions. Love that. Let me know what you think. Do you think the UK will send a Welsh language song? I mean, we've done it for Junior Eurovision, which was great. I liked both of our entries actually for Junior Eurovision, especially 2018. I love that one. But could we do it in the adult Eurovision? Maybe. Cheyenne would like something similar to Florence and the Machine. So anything that's more of an indie vibe rather than pop. And yeah, that's what I've been saying pretty much. Something that's a different genre, that's not pop for a change. I think that's what Sweden should be doing too, really, but that's a whole other topic. Anyway, moving on to Grace, my friend Grace. Hello. You've mentioned 3 names here: Tom Odell, Tokyo Myers, and Tom Walker, and they are your top 3. Those are good names, especially Tom Walker. I think that would be good. Maybe I should have put Tom Walker on my list. And Tokyo Myers, that's an interesting one. He was the winner of Britain's Got Talent a few years ago. He's a piano player, he's a pianist, not a singer. But, you know, for him to collaborate with a singer, that could be quite interesting on stage. So yeah, that's an interesting one, something a bit different. Alex, another Twitter friend of mine, hello, would like Grace Davis to represent us and thinks that she'll do very well at Eurovision. Grace Davis, I'm sure that name has been rumoured a lot before. I could be getting her mixed up with somebody else, but I'm sure I've heard that name pop up in rumours for Eurovision before, I think. I've heard of the name, but I don't know if I can think of any of her music, but I think she was on the X Factor. Again, I could be wrong. But anyway, thank you for that suggestion. Finally, final comment now from fellow YouTuber Reese Chambers. Hello. So you've got a few names mentioned here. You've mentioned Self-Esteem, which is another name that came up before. Also Dodie. Dodie, actually, haven't heard from her for a few years, but I do know her. She was a YouTuber, wasn't she? Like a YouTuber and a singer, but I haven't really heard of her for a few years. Amy McDonald and Pixie Lott are your other suggestions. And I've seen your Instagram post about your wish list for the UK. I know you haven't mentioned them here in this tweet, but in your post, you did have quite a few that I've mentioned, like Churches, Pale Waves. I think you had Doobie as well. I remember flicking through and agreeing with all of the names that you put, and I think you have mentioned ones that are very similar to mine in your Instagram post, so I'll have a look back at that again. So thank you for all of your contributions to our UK Eurovision wish list. Will any of them come true? We've got quite a big mix of different people there. Who knows? Of course, it's ages away until we find out who the UK is sending for 2024. But until then, it's fun to speculate and fun to dream. We dare to dream. So thank you for watching. Let me know if you've got any more ideas of anything that we haven't mentioned in this video. Feel free to keep the comments coming. I will be back with a new video, hopefully soon, about something. I'm sure I'll find something to film about, but until then, thank you for watching. See you very soon. Bye.